retaining staff performance. So have you ever noticed that most business discussions in respect of human capital is centered around recruitment and dismissal? And surprisingly, in some entities, performance assessment and empowerment practices are unheard of. So the question that we have today is, should that be our main emphasis when we want business sustainability? I'm Brenda Hurudza, the founder of Be Advisory, a firm offering tailored accounting, taxation, and financial advisory services. So as a result of deeper understanding of our clients' needs, we host a Be Advisory Lunch and Learn, which is a monthly informational program whose objective is to unravel world-class solutions and strategies that assist in running sustainable, profitable, and compliant businesses. So our presenter today, Yoke, is a professional speaker. She's a professional member at the Professional Speakers Association of Southern Africa. She's an internationally NLP practitioner. She's also the founder of Y Connect, a company that assists companies and teams who struggle with productivity, stress management, morale, retaining staff, and team communication. She has grown and transformed teams of different companies into something extraordinary. So today we are going to listen to Yoke and she's going to present on how to retain staff performance whilst building a remarkable team. Over to you, Yoke.
Thank you so much, Brenda. The first thing I would love you to do is quickly scan my QR code and connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with all of you on LinkedIn, and we will make sure that we send you extra articles and resources that can help you. So if you wanted to just point your camera at the screen and grab it, I'll give it to you afterwards as well. So do you want your team to look something like this? Engaged, motivated, excited? Or are you actually struggling with teams that are disconnected, stressed out, anxious, tired, despondent, and disengaged? Hi, I'm Yoke van Dam. I've been doing a lot of work specifically on the leadership development and team side, specifically with teams that struggle with these issues, where they're in conflict with each other and completely disengaged. But sometimes also with teams that are not in that, let's say, toxic situation. Sometimes they simply want to get into better flow. They want to move forward. And especially now with COVID, so much has happened that they actually want new strategies to get connected. So thank you so much for joining us today. I wanted to share with you a few of the lessons that I picked up last year when I was interviewing 26 leaders in business, and I was asking them, what is the impact of COVID and this pandemic been on the morale, teams, and leadership of their companies ever since March 2020? And perhaps you can identify some of these things in your business as well. But before we get into that, I would love you to first just put into the chat box for me, what do you see the definition of what is a star performer in a business to you? Would they be really good in sales? Are they always arriving early, leaving late? Like, what is your definition of a star performer? So please go into the chat box and just type for me, what do you see as a star performer? That a wonderful performer, the kind of person that you want to keep and nurture. What would they look like? So please go into the chat box and type for me. Kensoni, I'm seeing you there, so I'm expecting you to please type something in there. Thank you, Nikki. Motivated and they have a great attitude. The rest will come. Brilliant. So Nicki Blignaut is saying a star performer is someone that's really motivated with great attitude. What do the rest of you think? What would a star performer in your business look like? I'm just going to give it a few seconds. Let's just see. Brenda's saying it's someone that is willing to learn. Brilliant. So they have a growth mindset. They're possibly open to coaching. They're willing to attend training courses. They don't frown at feedback. Deirdre the Foss is saying they're enthusiastic about what they do. So really passionate. They have good energy and vibe. They have a passion to learn. So I'm seeing learning, motivated attitude is coming up quite a bit. Kinsani is saying they have a positive mindset. So definitely, it's the kind of people that make things happen. And despite the media, despite the pandemic, despite the looming war in other countries, they decide that they are still going to give their best. Jolene's saying it's someone who's always on time and has a good attitude, who believes in the product they sell and no selling on empty promises. So what it sounds like to me, Jolene, is you're saying they have good ethics. And if they're selling, they're almost selling in a way as if to say, if this was my friend or my mother, how would I be treating them and making sure that they deliver and they follow through on the customer promise? I'm seeing Mirriam add something that I missed out on. Let's see. Dr. Molly Yusa, they exceed role expectations. They're willing to walk the proverbial extra mile. I love that. Going the extra mile, they communicate effectively and have great work ethic. So ethics, attitude, learning, extra mile. And Prince is saying someone of a lot of energy and who's willing to learn and who is willing to take responsibility. I love that. So I just have a few more questions for you. So what for you in your business, whether you are a leader of teams or you have your own business, what is the value for you of keeping a star performer, or what is the cost of losing them? Have you ever calculated this to see how long it takes you to actually get someone new on speed versus keeping the people that really are amazing? So I'm just going to give you a moment. What's the value of keeping them and nurturing them and watering them, keeping them happy? Maybe I could ask another question. What impact do they have on the rest of your team, a star performer? Does their positive attitude ripple? Does it spread? Do they teach other people? Right. And then I wanted to ask you, what retention strategies have you tried so far? So have you tried incentives or bonuses? Maybe just show me a thumbs up or a down. Have you tried incentive strategies? Have you given them days off? I'm getting some thumbs up. Thanks, Mirriam. Have you had conversations with them? What have you tried so far that has really worked? So I'll give an example of something that I've seen of someone who's in the room. Dr. Molly used her assist to actually run a guest house, and I'm always seeing them even taking out the employees to lunches and celebrations where they're making them feel good about themselves. And that's one of the things that I've been noticing as an outside party, but I'm sure that they do much more than that. Let's see. Kinsoni says the rest of the people actually become productive as well. Brilliant. I totally agree. So I said to you that I wanted to share with you what were some of those core insights that came up from that COVID research. And one of the things is a lot of the companies' positive things came out. And the first thing that came out is they actually found that businesses that were succeeding even amongst the change were the ones that were purpose-driven. So if they knew what their true north was, but also what impact were they bringing to the bigger community. So I remember last year I was interviewing Margaret Hirsch in the middle of the loitering that was happening in KZN. And there she was in Springfield with a broom, busy cleaning up. And she said to me, Yoke, we can continue even if we close down the store, but we are feeding so many breadwinners and they are supporting at least 8 to 10 people in the wider community. So they knew that for their business, there's a much bigger purpose than just the people that are actually employed there. So if you want to really succeed in your business, you need to know what your true north is. What is the bigger purpose that you bring? The companies that also thrived amongst the change were the ones that were really flexible. So they were willing to give flexible work environments to their staff. And even now, where people are coming back to the office, they would say, You can work a certain amount of days from home. You can leave after traffic. If you have kids, you can do things in certain ways. So flexibility really had an impact on staff morale for their employees. Some of them went as far as actually setting them up with data, getting their internet systems up to date, even sending them office chairs and making their work environments really nice. But what was some of the negative things that happened? And that's why we're also having this webinar today is people started feeling extremely lonely and disconnected. A lot of the teams that I actually did work with in the past are now saying to me that people have unlearned to communicate. They are having conflicts with each other. They are passive aggressive. And you're actually finding that people are so used to only engaging with their own family and seeing people on a screen where they don't even switch on their camera. So there's a total loss of body language. And I was actually asked to train people recently how to connect with people and open a conversation again because they unlearned it. Also, something else that didn't happen is there's been a lack of celebration. I spoke to one of the CEOs and he said to me that in the last 2 years, whenever someone had been at the company for 10 years, he would give them with a Mont Blanc pen. And what ended up happening is he was sitting with so many Mont Blanc pens that it was never dished out because they never had those celebrations. So now that we are moving out of this pandemic and we're getting into a place where you can meet up with people again, can you start celebrating your achievements with your teams? Because that is something that will really motivate them. And ultimately, the last thing that I wanted to highlight out of that COVID report was that a lot of people felt that they lost morale. They lost their vibe and their focus, and they just didn't feel like working anymore. They completely lost their mojo. And today's event is really to give you some ideas to uplift the morale of your teams, but also how to really retain the good ones and build up the others. So the first thing that I wanted to encourage you to do is to have empathy. And I just want to quickly go back, sorry. Is to have empathy. So what I want to encourage you to do is I want you to imagine that you could be like a tour guide. And a tour guide is someone that actually says to the people, where are you now? Where do you want to get to? What have you tried so far? What is your budget? So can you start having meetings with your team, imagining that you are a tour guide, trying to map out specifically their specific needs. So if you're looking at the star performers, can you ask them personally, what are your goals? What do you want to achieve? Are you planning to send your kids to private schools? Do you want to go on an international vacation? What are your bigger goals? Can you write them down and see how can their business goals help them get there? The moment you're actually getting into a place where people feel that you really understand them, that's where they will go really far for you. What you also want to look at is you want to really listen well in that environment. And what I encourage the leaders that I do training with, we actually do role plays. So I teach them using the GROW model, how to have a coaching conversation with their teams. And they tend to do this on at least a monthly basis. And they originally they say to me, Yoko, why would we want to know about their personal goals? And I said to them, well, if you don't know what really makes them tick and what's really important in life for them, then you're not going to actually buy into their heart. So people don't make decisions from their brain. They actually make decisions from their logical brain. They actually make decisions mostly from their amygdala, their emotional brain. So if you're not tapping into the emotions and into their core values, the things that are really important to them, you're not actually going to get their buy-in to do anything for you. Then you want to have a discussion about what are their business goals. You want to look at where are they at currently in your business. Is there certain skills that they have, capabilities, courses that they've done that they could maybe live out better in another project? Could you maybe move them around in the business or work on a plan to promote them or to get them to follow in your footsteps? So ultimately, when you start having those conversations and you're actually coaching your people, and not just the people that are not doing well, but actually also the star performers, you will get them to want to stay at your business. And that will give you the ideas. Because if they're saying to you, they really still want to do a degree, possibly you could sponsor that through your business. If they're saying to you that they really want to go on a specific holiday, you could set targets for them that they can reach. And as a business, you could potentially sponsor some of their holidays. So find out what makes them tick. So many years ago, I was working at Entrepreneur magazine, and they had an incentive where if we made our yearly annual sales target, we could all go to Mauritius. And the people were all excited about it, and it did nothing for me because I would have rather wanted to go to Italy, Greece, France. So had they rather package it into a way to say you can go on a tour at this value through this company, and I could have actually had the autonomy to choose what I wanted to do with the incentive, it would have actually motivated me more. But what leaders tend to do is we tend to just put our own ideas onto people, and then you're spending money and it's not actually giving you the results. So a lot of the ways in which you can retain your teams doesn't have to cost as much as an overseas holiday or a massive bonus. A lot of it could be achieved through just communicating with them on a one-on-one basis, giving them empathy and deeply listening to them. So I wanted to tell you a story from Dan Riley. So Dan Riley did research. He wrote the book Predictably Irrational, and he had a bunch of students where half of them were given the Bionicles. It's like little pieces of Lego to build this Lego robot man, right? And half of the people were asked to say, okay, if you build it, then we'll give you a certain amount of money. So after building one, he would say to them, do you want to build another? And then they'll say yes. And he would take the little robot man and he would put it underneath the table. And then he would actually make the amount of money that they're getting to build it less, until eventually it was really not worth their time and they would say no. But they've built maybe 10 to 12 little robot men. For the other group, he said, do you want to build a little bionicle robot man? They gave them money. And the next moment they said, do you want to build another? They'll say yes. You would take that same piece, break it into pieces, and give it back to them. And then they would have to start again. So I want to ask you in your own mind, which group do you think built the most bionicle men? And who were willing to go on the longest? The people that could see their progress, that visually underneath the table, they were the bionicle men. They could see, wow, the work that I'm doing is being implemented. Even though it's not even deep, meaningful, and purposeful, I can at least see it. Or the guys whose work was destroyed in front of their eyes. You're right. The people who could see their progress visually, they were willing to build almost double the amount of bionicle men than those whose work was destroyed in front of them. So I want to ask you a question. How many times do you ask your teams to do a project for you? And then you don't tell them when things have changed. And then they've spent an entire weekend putting a presentation to work together, working on the project deadline, only to hear that project's not happening anymore, or that you've built your own deck and they can just delete theirs. If you're noticing, people will get highly demotivated if you destroy their work. So can you put up a visual representation where people can see where their targets are, how far they are towards reaching them? If there is an incentive, can you actually have it up against a wall or some kind of a billboard to show the flow? How far are we? Are we 50 to 60 or 80% towards getting it? So another simple idea at a company I used to work, we were on a monthly basis having these simple little incentive schemes. And once we decided that as a group, we wanted to get a bread maker. And the sales manager literally put pictures of the bread maker all over it. And whenever someone made a sale of 5,000 Rand, that would mean that you could actually take off one of those pieces of paper until finally, when we'd reached our full target, the bread maker actually came to our company. So we had wonderful and lovely bread. So my tip for you in this specific instance is ask your people what incentives they want. Visually represent it and see what you can do about that. And then specifically, just give me a second. See how people can actually, how do people fit into the puzzle? So can you talk to your teams? And I wanted to tell you a little story of something that happened with JF Kennedy. He actually visited NASA Space Center and he met with the janitor and he said to him, Mr. Janitor, what is it that you do? And he said, well, Mr. Kennedy, President Kennedy, I'm here to help put a man on the moon. Does your teams know what the bigger purpose is of your business? And despite their role, how are they supporting your business to actually getting to that place specifically? So obviously the janitor was actually cleaning NASA, possibly, I don't know if he was even bringing coffee to the engineers, but if he wasn't there, it wouldn't be a coherent environment to actually get Neil Armstrong to walk on the moon. So what is the bigger purpose of your business? If you're looking at so many of the thought leaders, if you are reading books like Simon Sinek, starting with Why, if you delve deeper into NLP, you'll know that if you ask the why question 5 times, why is it important? Why are we here? Why do you get up in the mornings? What brings you to this business? Why did you stay? If you go deeper and deeper and deeper, you'll get into your core values. And if you ask the question, why was this business created? And why now? Why in this country at this moment in time? You'll actually start getting to that place where you're understanding your purpose. So that is one of the areas that I actually do work with. I'm actually doing work with a team next week where we're developing their purpose statement, delving into their values, delving into their behaviors so that they can really be aligned. And they can also put that onto their website and communicate that to clients and make it part of their marketing strategies. And then when you're having those conversations with your teams, whether you are coaching them, finding out about their personal goals, finding out about their business goals, what you want to do is you want to stop multitasking. Because in the words of M. Scott Peck, one of my favorite authors that wrote the book, The Road Less Traveled, he says that you cannot possibly truly listen to anyone and do anything else at the same time. So what ends up happening if we're doing a lot of things is we end up losing concentration and actually developing brain fog. So when we multitask, what happens in our brain, it's almost like we have multiple browsers open on our computer and our brain is waiting for some light to flash, some notification to come in. And what I've done is when I'm really trying to focus, even on a task, I switch off my email, I get off social media, I'm literally doing the Pomodoro technique and setting a timer and just working on that. So if you are spending time with your teams and you're having that one-on-one coaching conversation with that specific star performer or leader, are you actually switching everything else off and listening to them? Because if you're not, then you're actually wasting your and their time. Because half of the time what we're doing is people aren't listening to each other and they're shouting barely related sentences to each other, trying to catch something that the other person has said. which might not be applicable at all. Because if you're really listening, what you want to do is you want to actually get into the inner recessor of your mind where you can actually really have a deep level of empathy, where you are really feeling with the other person, understanding them. So you want to be at a place where you switch off your own thoughts and you're literally just in that zone with them. You're reading their facial expressions, their body language, their tone of voice, and you're responding to that. But half of the time, what we do is we hear the first sentence that they say, and then we remember this important thing that we want to say, and we're holding onto it in our mind so much that we are completely losing the other person. Versus sitting down, you could have a pen and paper and even make notes, but just deeply listening to what they're saying and allowing them to speak. So what I want you to encourage you to do is stop your own thoughts and to really be present in that moment. So some ideas that I teach people is breathing, noticing that you're in that room and just fully being present. Then you want to look at designing your team's customer experience. So you want to ask the following questions. What do you want them to think of you as a leader and in your business? What do you want them to say about you when you're not in the room? What do you want them to actually say about you and the company when a new employee or a new recruit starts or is considering joining your company? What would you want them to say? And what do you want them to do? Do you want them to vote your company as the best company to work for? Do you want them to advocate that your company and your leaders really creates a great customer experience for the staff? I wanted to encourage you to look at these areas specifically in your business, because that will have a massive impact on your staff retention and engagement. And lastly, my 10th point is empower them through mastery. Someone once said, what if we train our employees and they leave? What if we've invested all of that money? I think it was Bill Gates who said this. And he said, well, what if you don't and they stay? You want to ensure that you give the correct tools, resources, skill, and also people and relational skill so that people are actually able to give your clients and your internal clients the best customer experience. And they'll only do that if they're really happy and satisfied. And if they're not a fit for your business, it would actually be better for you if they don't stay. But potentially you could empower them and inspire them and really connect to their personal goals so that they want to listen to you and be part of your team. So I hope you've taken out a few ideas from today. There are my contact details. I would love to have a discovery call with you. I do a lot of these showcase webinars. I will be sending you some core notes from today and maybe a little article. But lastly, these are the kind of services that we offer to our clients. But ultimately, what you want to do as a leader is you want to, in the words of Maya Angelou, people are not going to remember what you did. People are not going to remember what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. Even if someone leaves your business, can you uplift them and feel like they feel like $1 million? Because what are the nice things that they will then say about you to potential other staff members or clients in the future? Thank you, Brenda. Any questions? I'm seeing Kensani was saying they become productive. And as always, such a gift to spend time with your energy. Oh, thank you so much. I'm going to hand back to Brenda.
Thank you so much, Yoke. Yes, it is really important to remember that it's not what you say, it's not what you do, but it's what you make someone feel that is more important. And also another point is what that you raised, Yoke, that is very important is it's not about focusing on the logical aspect of things, but the emotional. Because if you look at the emotional part of things, then you have the buy-in from the employees or the people that you work with. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming in. We are going to continue with our sustainability series. In the next month, join us again as we look into how do we improve ourselves in building our sustainable businesses by marketing. Next series is going to be on marketing, and looking forward to see all of you back. And thank you so much again, Yoke, and thank you for inspiring us to be better people and better employers and better leaders in our entities so that we can build sustainable businesses. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.